The Legacy Files with Grant Cameron.
Good morning from Port Coquitlam, BC, Canada, where on the seventh day God rested. He came for vacation here. And I'm joined today by my co-author and assistant, Desta Barnabe. And we're doing a little thing we're calling the Legacy Files.
Yeah.
Legacy Files.
Yeah.
And basically, we're just going to go through some of the news. We've been around for a long time doing this kind of stuff. And we're just going to sort of throw our opinion into some of the big stories that are in the UFO field today. And for the people who want to listen, that's fine. And for the people who don't have to listen. And the topic we're going to quickly do, and it's going to be a short segment. We may break it into a couple if we want to talk a little bit longer, but we're going to be talking about the Skywatcher, which seems to be the big topic of the day. And I guess I can sort of started by talking that Desta phoned me up and was very upset about the show and what was going on and had opinions on it. And I have some opinions on it as well. I've written an article that we will put out. It is 26 pages long and it goes in great detail of what I think is involved with the legacy program and a lot of the stuff that we've missed out. And I think the main thing that Desta, you and I have an objection to is this idea that we're going to do this scientifically and the UFO people can basically go to hell.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. I had to comment under the videos. It's really interesting to be watching the videos. So the Ross Coulter interviews and Jake Barber and everything talking about it is interesting, but it's very disrespectful, I think, in my opinion, for them to be literally asking, if you're a scientist and you want to join our team, come on out. But we are literally not looking for ufologists. So for me, it feels like they're just like rewriting history and rebranding everything and completely ignoring the research and the data that the ufologists have been compiling for the last 70 years.
Yeah, the rebranding. Let's talk a little bit about the rebranding because that's what they do. They change it to psionics. And what's the latest one they've changed it to? Meditative something or other.
Yeah.
I just like, and that's what you do is you try to change, like, as I mentioned to you, like if you go to the dentist or doctor or whatever, you go to a dentist and they're talking about some tooth, he's talking to the assistant. You have no clue what the guy's talking about. They sort of create their own language. I think the main thing that I will be dealing with this in this article that they really haven't looked at is the basic thing that you and I have written books on, and we're going to be doing more books on, this basic concept that everything is one and consciousness is primary. And this, no matter what, how they want to spin this, this is, as Stephen Greer pointed out, former Delta Force people who basically are saying that by the end of the year they're going to have a UFO in their possession. And it's like, who are they? Who do they think they're kidding? I mean, the main thing that you see that nobody's brought up, and I'll bring it up now, is they say, well, they're bringing these things in. They're not bringing them in. These things, none of them, he said, ever come within 5 kilometers of the site. So the thing is playing with them. And if you go and if you have any UFO background, you can go to the OSAP program at Skinwalker Ranch, and you can know they did the same damn thing. They were playing with this phenomena, and the phenomena was always, as they said, the phenomena not only knew what they were going to do, it knew what they were about to do. And this is the thing with the camera, where they ripped the cameras down. And Bob Bigelow did his thing when he was asked by George Knapp. George Knapp says, "So what was it all about? What was this all about?" And he said, "It's about communication and games." And he talked about the games that they played with the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch that they do with the jacks and the ball, and they would put a certain formation, and then they'd leave it, and the jacks and the balls would all be changed around into a different formation. And so these guys are basically in this thing that they are in control. And in the article, I basically point out, don't even go there. I mean, there's no way that this phenomena, you are in control of this phenomena. It is what we call the theory of wow, or the Jesus circus, where they're just playing these games. And you see the same thing where they're jamming the sensors and they're shutting off stuff. And when they try to hit it with this beam weapon, they turn and they're just turning the cone to hit the beam, hit this thing with a beam weapon. They basically shut them down. Of course, how do they look at that? Oh, it's a threat. Look, they turned our thing off. Well, of course, they turned your damn sensor off. You're about to shoot the thing. And this is this whole mentality of the special forces people that when you see they went to Skinwalker Ranch, they left. They were so scared when they left Skinwalker Ranch because, as I always tell the story, they said we were going to play hunt the Skinwalker and the phenomena. which is running the show, says, "Oh, you want to play this Hunt the Skinwalker? We love to play Hunt the Skinwalker." And next thing, these guys are running for their lives, and they're so afraid they don't want to go back on the ranch. And I've had that feeling. I don't know if you've had that feeling of absolute terror that this thing can absolutely, almost like a psychedelic experience. If you think that you're running the show or you're in a near-death experience and you're going to run the show, they can put you on your knees very fast.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is something that I just sort of point out some of the things they've sort of missed, and particularly the thing I point out is the fact that if you take a look, the thing is playing games like they say, oh, they're bringing them in with this dog whistle, this very derogatory dog whistle thing, and the thing comes in, and they got the number one comes in with 20 UFOs. Well, I mean, if you're going to be doing uh, um, sort of sort of an infiltration or a scouting what these guys are doing. I mean, they have a camera, they have a radar, they have some sensors and stuff like that. There's a couple of guys there. I mean, how long does it take? You'd fly one little tiny drone over there. You're going to know exactly what they're doing. You don't need 20 crafts to come in, and they're flying in formation. Like, what's that all about? And you can basically see. And the other thing that I point out that nobody I think has pointed out was the fact that in these nine, they've got nine new categories. So it's like we've reinvented UFOs. I mean, they're writing themselves into history. And basically, take a look at the nine categories, and none of them are the same. They have the category of the Tic Tac, but they say it's not the same as the Tic Tac on the Nimitz. And the orbs, the way they describe the orbs, are different than the orbs that are described at Skinwalker Ranch or the ones that you and I and other people have filmed and stuff like that. So basically, it's nine new categories, and it's almost like the UFOs. Like when I make the joke about when the Nimitz came across, it's like they told Zogar, go make some bubbles under the water. They're coming here. Go make some bubbles under the water. And they go, oh, look at the bubbles underwater. It's just like, and they don't realize that this phenomena is it loves to play games. It's this trickster phenomena. So you'll see a lot of quotes I've got in this paper from Jacques Vallée, from John Keel, from Terence McKenna, all this thing about this fact that the phenomena is in control and it likes to play this trickster thing. It likes to play games and it is in control and it's not going to allow itself to get sucked in. The fact that it's 5 kilometers away and no closer would indicate that this phenomena knows what's going on and it's allowing them to take a few little photographs and get it and stuff like that. But if the sensor data is being jammed, then how can you trust the sensor data? How can you say this is actual data? Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say this object is objective of us. It doesn't matter what it does. We're tracking it, and there's this idea that it's all connected. That no, this phenomenon knows exactly what you're doing, and that there is no separation between anything in time and space.
And I think they're trying to control the narrative, in my opinion,
Yeah.
the government and the CIA this whole entire time with the UFO subject, especially. They're now trying to rebrand everything, and they're changing the term psychics to psionics and aliens to non-human intelligences and UFOs to UAPs. They're doing that as a control mechanism. They're trying to control the narrative again. So they're sending out all their people like Lou Elizondo, everyone else that's connected to intelligence to be the main people that people are listening to. And Jake Barber and the Skywatcher, they're trying to pretend that these are the new people that are studying it. And by rebranding it, they're totally erasing the whole history of what everyone else has been doing this whole entire time. They're acting like ufologists don't matter anymore, experiencers don't matter, and because they're saying that it's scientific, it's not very scientific if they're not collaborating with old data. If they're completely like they're sidelining the UFO community and the experiencer community by not agreeing to collaborate and to get data that we already have from the past and everything that everyone's been doing this whole time by setting up CE5 protocols and calling them a dog whistle. They're just doing a psychic connection like Stephen Greer did, playing their tones, trying to bring something in, but now it's not called CE5 protocols anymore either. Now they're terming it the dog whistle, and they're doing the exact same thing that we're all doing this whole time. But for some reason, they think that they're the main people, they're the scientists, and everyone should be listening to them when they're the brand new kids on the block that aren't even following any of the data that we've been collecting this whole entire rest of the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that they think this is new, but if you go back, and I start the article by saying, well, where are the wooden ships from the 1890s? Where are the Foo Fighters? Where are the green fireballs? Where are the Adamski crafts? Where are the triangles? Where are the orbs? All this kind of stuff. And it's like this new thing, which should indicate to you that it's just another pattern that the phenomenon is using. It just keeps changing the pattern, changing, and it is able to morph. And there's so much evidence in the UFO community of this consciousness thing that these things are able to morph. They're able to change shape as they're coming in, and all this kind of stuff. And if you listen to James Lukatsky, who ran the OSAP program, said every single one is different. And so if you get that, all the UFOs are different, then this idea that you're going to get some objective stuff, and basically what it comes down to, I think, is that they're trying to get funding, which is fine. That you're trying to get funding from the government that they can bring these things in and make money. And so if you're going to propose a project, you're going to up everything and say this is how it's done. And it's almost the same as going to Congress, to the Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. They're trying to get money for funding, and fine to them. But in the end, I think if you forget this whole thing about consciousness is primary, that you think that you can measure this thing as objective and it's physical, and you can measure it and get the same measurement every time. You can reproduce it in the lab. This is nonsense. And I say in the end, it's going to be that the scientists are going to be the ones fighting over the cyanide pills, because they're suddenly going to realize that this was not the whole thing, that consciousness is primary and nothing gets behind consciousness, as Max Planck said, and you have to have that in your equation. And everybody's sort of playing this game of disclosure. And I wanted to show a cartoon. Maybe we can end with the cartoon. The other thing I sort of pointed, this has more to do with disclosure than it has to do with the Skywatcher thing, but people are talking about, oh, we're going to have this craft. And I keep saying, okay, so what are you going to do with the craft? Can you see my screen here? Hang on. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can you see my little cartoon here? This is from 1982. This is when ET came out. And it basically says, look, all I know is one day the court ruled that we have to accept illegal aliens into our schools, and the next day he enrolled. And you have ET in this school with all these young kindergarten kids or grade 1 kids or whatever. And that's what I said to people. I say, okay, it's with Eric Walker, the highest level official that anybody ever had. We had was Dr. Eric Walker. And he said to us, he said, okay, when you figure it out, what are you going to do with it? And that is the whole thing. What are you going to do when you get the craft? What are you going to shackle these aliens and put them in prisons? Or what are you going to do? Are you going to allow them to walk around the streets of America? Nobody's even talking about this, but we're so consumed with this idea that we're going to get craft and free technology and everybody's going to become a billionaire and have a ship. I was listening to a show on CBC this morning where they're talking about a guy just wrote a book on people with very rich people with yachts, and the thing it's called LOA, longest. I can't remember, but it basically comes down to, in the old days, if you were like Rockefeller, what you did with your excess money is you'd go and you'd build foundations and you'd have funding for hospitals, the Rockefeller Foundation, stuff like that. If you were the guy that from Stanford University, Leo, no, who's his name? He was the big magnet, the big railway magnet. He used his money to build Stanford University, and the guy that built the libraries, one of them, the rich guys, built all these libraries across the United States. And now the thing is, who's got the biggest yacht? And they're talking about these 300-foot yachts. The one that the heir to the Walmart Foundation has this 300-foot yacht with a helicopter pad on it and all this kind of stuff. And they say that's the best way for billionaires now to use up their excess money. And everybody's trying to build a bigger and bigger and bigger yacht. And so it's basically, we're sort of lost in this material world where we've sort of lost track of what's going on. And this phenomena is real. And we're still in this materialistic paradigm where we're going to sort of get a ship, and all these guys are going to be rich, and we're all going to do better, and we're going to feed the poor people. And none of that's going to happen. It's going to be the same thing. The same people that are funding the Skywatcher are very rich people. So what are they going to do? They're going to take control of it and charge people for it. They're not going to give it away for free. So let's leave it at that, and we can come back and talk about something else. I want to talk about near-death experiences, because I've sort of spent a lot of time now on near-death experience. I've been watching hundreds of videos, and I think it's much more important to the UFO phenomena than I thought it was previously.
Sounds good. See you next time.
Okay. Thank you, Desta.